Now that after doing number one, you understand your lead content pages, now we need to first create your personal content archives. And what I mean by content archives, these are pretty much like your concierge pages. So we talked about, deal of the month being a concierge page. We talked about all these are concierge pages except for the city search and home search. That's obvious. So now though, your only concierge pages won't just be deal of the month, what will my home really sell for, good or bad market, because these are more like subtopics to a general points, right? Because who does what will my home really sell for appeal to? Sellers. So sellers is like a topic. Who does a deal of the month appeal to? Buyers. So buyers is a topic. So here's what I did on the outline. I've outlined the core content archives that I could think of that will pretty much apply to everybody. But here's what I want you to understand. These aren't the only ones. Your market may have different ones. And I'm going to ask you 4 questions right now before we go into these that could help you determine those as well. Alright? Here's questions you need to think about when creating your content archives. And again, the purpose for creating these content archives is so that you can have every single bit of information that anybody's ever asked you or dealt with you in your market. You need to have it online as a concierge of information. That's the whole intention. So here's the first question you need to ask yourself. What is everything you need a buyer or seller to know about your business if you get them on your website? And here's what I mean by that. How do you run your business? I know that whoever's listening to this audio right now, you run your business different than the other agent in the other area listening to the same audio. You guys run your business different. Let me give you an example. If you get a buyer lead, maybe one of you requires that buyer lead and when they schedule an appointment through online. Maybe you're like, I don't show properties until I know you're qualified, or till you come to my office and I do my buyer presentation and you sign a buyer broker agreement. Maybe that's how you run your business. Or maybe another agent's like, no, I'm going to call you, I'm going to get you on the phone, you're going to connect with my lender first, and then we'll verify the appointment, whatever the case is. The whole point is you run your business differently. So ask yourself those things. What is everything you need a buyer or seller to know about your business if you get them on your website? Because here's what you want this to be. Remember how I talked about this reduces overhead when you do your concierge pages, right? This is an example. By showing people what you do, you could save time in like doing it in real life. So let's say if someone wants to know what is a buyer presentation or what do you do when we do this, and your website has that information, great. Let me send you the link. Watch the video there or watch this there. It's the same way I manage the whole Tizish things with giving all these tutorials and support. Loads of agents. How do you teach 100+ agents how to do online marketing when there's thousands of different questions? Well, you do it by having concierge of information. Go here, go here. So the whole idea is real estate's no different. Every industry is no different. So the whole idea is ask yourself those questions and write down those things. What's everything you need them to know? Do you do open houses? Do you not do open houses? How do you market homes? Do you have an online marketing campaign that's super focused? What are all those things? Write them down. It's going to help you organize as we get going. Now, what is everything you need a buyer or seller to have from you that they can get from your website to save you time in preparing the same files? Here's what I mean. Maybe you prepare a buyer packet for buyers when you first start working with them. Maybe you have your pre-listing packet that you always prepare, and then you have to always give to your sellers before you go with them. Whatever the case is, what are the same files that you find yourself always preparing that you can put on your website? And instead of always having to prepare the same files, you just give them those files, or you give them a link and say, go here to get everything. Well, that's another question you need to think about. Another one is, what's the content in your market that updates with time, or in your niche per se? Like are you in a heavily focused REO market or short sale market, or are you one of the lucky areas that are all equity sellers maybe? Whatever the case is, what is the content that updates with time? And most importantly, when you find yourself having to keep your consumers updated, how do you keep your customer base updated about news? If you have a sphere, if you have your farm, how do you keep them updated? Whatever the answers to those questions is, write them down, because we need to see how to integrate those as content concierge sections of your website. So when you want to tell people to update, you could probably tell them, go here and sign up for updates or something like that. But we'll get to there in the future. Let's stay focused on this one right now. And the next one is, this is a really easy one. Look at all your emails, look at all your voicemails, look at all your phone calls, and ask and find out, when people contact you, what are they looking for? What are they asking you about? So if you got a phone call from a lead today, let's say it was a seller, what's the actual question they're asking? Get out of the mode of thinking, I'm going to sell this person's house, and instead, for the moment being, obviously that's the end goal, but for the moment think, when they called me and they said, do we help with loan mods, What are the real questions they're asking? Oh, I'm facing foreclosure. What do I do about when I can't afford my payments? You know, what are the real questions they're asking? Start thinking of those. So look at all the topics that you've been asked in the past 6 months plus, or however far back you could go, and you're going to start noticing themes. This is the key part to this. This is why I put it last. Understanding the questions your consumer base asks you also is going to help you understand the questions that they search on Google in your area. Because think about it like this. If you get, let's say you get calls from sellers that are like just asking general questions about short sales, well, guess what? You think that they probably didn't go online as well to try to type those same questions out and see what people say? Though that's like a great source of blog and local content to start getting local leads. Alright, so find out those questions and write them down. Those are going to become, in the future, as we get going on this more, those are going to become a source of good blog content. On top of, you'll see general themes developing that you'll create concierge archives for. Alright, so those are the questions. I'm going to give you these questions, and you'll see I put a note here, ask in the beginning and ask in the end. Right now may not make full sense since you haven't seen what these concierge pages, you know, are supposed to look like in a sense, but we're going to come back to these questions at the end, just like we're going to come back to the marketing principles at the end, just to recap and close this off in a full understanding way. So, alright, so now with those things understood, you ask yourself those questions, and let's say you had all the information. Well, now you need to create your general categories first and foremost. Alright? And ignore these subcategories for now. We're going to go into that when we actually do this exercise right now. But here's the general categories I thought of. Buyers, of course, sellers, cities, and I'll get to that one shortly. How's the market? We already covered that one. Your about page, or your team page. Your frequently asked questions, or I like to call this common questions page, because common questions appeals to more people, meaning, hey, if it's common, I must be thinking it too, versus frequently asked questions. That one just has no psychological connection. Common questions does. And then, of course, the last one is testimonials. Now, all of these pages are going to be concierge type pages. They're not going to be single landing pages. All right. So, along with these deeper these core pages, now start asking yourself questions of like, what are some subsections of buyers? So let's say there's obviously loads of different buyers. There's investors. You have first-time home buyers. So map that out right now, as you can see here. And I put deal of the month under here too, because that's appealing to them. And then now sellers. Well, what kind of things do sellers ask? Well, they want to know, how the heck do you market your home for sale, maybe? And what are the things that would appeal to sellers in your area? They want to know price trends maybe in your neighborhood. And then, of course, they want to know how to price homes. What are general topics? Or maybe another one would be, you know, facing foreclosure. That's another one that may face your area. You know, I'm not gonna keep this one on the list just because I want to keep it more general focused. But foreclosures, let's say, would be one. You know, like things like that. So break down sellers into what are the other core topics, the mindsets of different type of sellers. And just to help you real quick, it's very simple. Where are they at, like way before when the first thought comes up of them wanting to sell their home? Like meaning, boop, they get the idea that they need to sell their home, but they're not going to sell it for like 6 months, 8 months. That's the first kind of mindset. The next one is they're going to sell their home in the next 30 days, and they're really starting to come to the decision-making process. And then the last, or the second to last one is their home's listed, and they're looking online to see what else is going on, because that does happen a lot. I'm sure you probably get that, those sellers that look at everything. I see my listing was here. I see my listing was there. Well, they're looking at everything you do, and they're also looking at other people's sites. So that's another mindset of the seller. And then the last one is the seller that thinks that their home isn't going to sell, and they're looking online as well, like what's going on. Those are different mindsets of sellers. So think of subtopics that could appeal to all of them. These are the three that I thought of to try to appeal to all of them. How to price your home, price trends in the neighborhood, how we market your home for sale. That should appeal to all of them. Now, the next area is cities. Your website, you all obviously have one main region that you work on multiple cities, right? Even if you have one main region, like that, you're like, oh, I'm a specific agent for the city of Irvine in Orange County. Well, that's true, but you probably trickle into Tustin. You probably trickle into Aliso Viejo, or maybe some of Newport Beach. Some of Laguna Hills. You might trickle into other areas. So the whole purpose of this city section is to appeal to the consumer base that may use one city that you're heavily focused on, and that may use that city as a gateway city to your other areas. So your cities here are going to serve as the concierge for all the information in this section, and that's going to be listings, that's going to be local and just neighborhood news and so forth. So I have 3 example cities here as a reference that we'll go over. The next area, how's the market? Now this one we talked about, of course, but I talked about it more from a lead capture standpoint. Now here's the whole intention. Every one of you on this, listening to this webinar right now, if your consumer base asks you, how's the market? Let's just actually pretend you're right now face to face with the buyer or seller and they ask you, how's the market? Every one of your answers, depending on your local market, is going to be different. And on top of that, every single assumption behind the seller or buyer asking that question is going to be different, because the markets are obviously different for people's areas, but some different things affect other areas. So let's say one region, if it's more heavily short sale based, when a seller asks how's the market, well, that's going to be more about short sale topics. So when you have things here, that should be one of your topics if that's the case. Or maybe there's one, how's the market, that's more about like the coming foreclosures that we know are going to happen. You know, kind of short sale related, but still, it's for maybe it's massively foreclosure based. Well, then that would be a separate topic. So the whole point is this: your how's the market page needs to have bullet points or subcategories. We're going to see how to create them. It's going to have these subcategories of the topics that actually have to do with how's the market in your area. What are the topics in your area? The general ones I thought of were these three that I'm using for the example: mortgage rates, home prices and trends, and then local market data. All right. And then the last few are about, this is going to be the team page. This is like if you're a single agent or if you have a team, you're going to see how to create a concierge page for this team. And then frequently asked questions, that's like what I already went over, common questions, so we're going to see the same thing. And testimonials. Here's the thing about testimonials. A lot of people want to name their testimonials page, you know, like things like why people love us or what people say about us and things like that. And that's a good idea. That's a good idea to do that kind of stuff because it just speaks more psychologically to the person. But understand at the end of the day, you have to just understand this about your testimonials page. If a buyer or seller clicks on your testimonials, they're not clicking on your testimonials to be sold on you. They're probably already sold on you in some way. They've already accepted that they want to work with you. So your testimonials page isn't a page that you're going to try to sell them. It's a page that you're going to try to reinforce what they already feel of why they want to work with you. So it's important to have your testimonials page be like a concierge, and we're going to see that shortly. So but keep that distinction in mind. A lot of people try to make their testimonials a sales page. It's not a sales page. It's a reconfirming of why they want you page, because they're already a little bit sold on you. Think about it in terms of you going on a website. If you're not interested in a website at all, in like let's say the information they're giving, and do you click on the testimonials? You don't, because you don't care. You're not really interested in them. The assumption is that when you click on a testimonial, psychologically you've accepted that you kind of like the person, or you're kind of looking to get their product or work with them, whatever the case is. So keep that in mind with your testimonials pages. Alright? So now here are the categories. Let me show you how I have them in the admin panel. Now we're going to get to the actual functional how-to parts, and this is really the easy part because it's just all basic tutorials, which is why I'm not spending most of the time on it. We're spending most of the time learning the actual functional items. So learning the marketing principles. So here we go. Let's look at our categories. All these things that you make here, these core things, these core topics, these are your categories. So you see on your blog, on your post, there's categories. Notice the way I have them lined up here. I'm going to try to move this over to the side a little bit. See how I have buyers, sellers, cities, how's the market? Notice I have buyers, and then the subcategories are each of those subcategories I've given here. Here, let's move this over. So you see that, you see buyers and then 3 subcategories. These are literally subcategories. I'll show you, I'm going to do those right now, but I have separate video tutorials again that I'm going to give you with each of these steps. So with this step, it'll say tutorial on how to create a category, tutorial on subcategory, etc. So I know I'm going fast on the how-to. Don't worry about the how-to. The separate tutorials along with the outline you get with this will have them. So don't worry if you're thinking, I don't know how to do that. Just right now focus on the content. Don't worry about taking notes. Focus on the principles I'm saying, Alright, so you see buyers. That's the main category because there's no hyphen. Then subcategories. Now cities, we have our 3 city subcategories right here, right? And then it goes all the way down, the same concept. We have common questions. There's no subcategories. We have how's the market. And then we have these 3 subcategories. And you see are the team, sellers, etc. They're all here. So here's what we're going to do. What I've already done to prep this file is notice that here in the buyers there's 9 blog postings in the buyers section, right? and then there's no blog postings in the subcategories. Because this is likely how you're going to create your pages. You're going to likely have a scenario where you have these core pages, but then now that you're redefining your subcategories, you're going to have no blog postings in them. So what we want to do is we're going to click into each category and start assigning them properly to these sections and start making our concierge of information pages. All right, and then that's what we're going to see developing. And the steps that show you how to do that are all right here.